Are you currently suffering from one of the many common or normal symptoms of pregnancy, like morning sickness or fatigue or constipation or latching troubles for your newborn or postpartum depression or heartburn? There's a whole list, as you probably hopefully don't, but may have heard of or might be familiar with. Do you feel like you're stuck with just dealing with it until the baby arrives or until the baby gets to be X age or whatever the case might be? Well, you're in luck because we're here to talk about different ways that we can help support your body, regardless of which phase of this 5 trimester journey from preconception to postpartum that you might be navigating. So, welcome back. And if you're new here, I'm Dr. Anjali. I'm the founder of Back in Balance. I'm a non cracking, non popping chiropractor and integrative functional nutritionist. I really love working with families and with companies in their workplaces to help their employees and people really optimize their health by moving well, eating well, and living well. So, and I'm also particularly passionate about working with families who are navigating this 5 trimester journey from preconception to postpartum. So, if this is you, let's dive in. All right. When it comes to symptoms, whether it is heartburn or constipation or nausea or fatigue or kind of fill in the blank, whatever that might look like for you. We often will think of, well, I have this symptom, it must be X cause, right? And sometimes with pregnancy, we feel like, okay, it's nausea. We're just told that this is normal in pregnancy and we just have to wait it out. Hopefully it goes away after first trimester. But if not, then you might have to ride it out until the baby arrives, right? Or if you're getting back pain, like there are structural changes happening in the body. So we just kind of assume that it's, again, normal to have back pain. And while there might be some connection to that, what I really want to kind of help share with you is that there is an interconnection of different types of functions in the body, just as there are different types of stressors on the body. So when it comes to symptoms, typically it's a result of some kind of micro trauma building up over time, even if the symptom feels like it appeared overnight, right? So I had one of my practice members who came in, and this was actually her second pregnancy. And in her first one, she was not living close by, and so was not really familiar with chiropractic care until the very end of her pregnancy, in which she started receiving some adjustments. And so after she moved and they were planning to get pregnant with their second child, she started coming in to see me, and we started talking about supporting her body and her partner's body so that we could really set the stage for optimal health with preconception. And then when it came time for first trimester, she was a little nervous about experiencing nausea again because her nausea in the first pregnancy was not terrible, but limiting enough that she wasn't able to really function properly at work and kind of had to significantly reduce her workload because she wasn't able to keep up. So when we started working on her adjustments when it came to first trimester, we talked a lot about the actual integration of structure and function, right? And one of the reasons that I specialize both in chiropractic as well as functional nutrition is because you really can't separate structure from function, right? So our structure will be our brain communicating to our body and our body communicating back to our brain. And 80% of the information from the nerves is actually going from our body to our brain. And 20% of it is from our brain to our body. But anyway, we still want both ways to be working optimally. And that's where chiropractic can be super, super helpful to really create some nervous system regulation by optimizing the alignment in our spine. And then when it comes to the integration of function, right? Because all of those nerves from our body are going to all the organs and tissues of our body, and then those are sending communication back up into our brain. And so we want to make that communication more optimal. And so we want to make sure that the function of those organs is also working as well as they can. So it's really looking at the integration of structure and function. It's not about addressing symptoms, really, in my perspective. It's really about trying to create optimal health so that whatever little challenges might come your way, it becomes a lot easier for us to navigate and becomes more of a little blip on our radar as opposed to this kind of catastrophic or really life-changing kind of experience. And so when it came to looking at supporting her body, we were doing some adjustments, which was helping, but we also needed to do some nutritional support to really help optimize not only how her adrenal glands are responding, her kidneys are responding, because there's a lot of change in how the body needs to respond in terms of our cortisol release for our different stress levels, but also how our body is filtering our blood, how our kidneys are functioning and pumping all of that information through our body and now into a developing baby and fetus, right? And so we were really looking at optimizing the function and the structure of that to really help her. And she was luckily able to navigate her second pregnancy without any symptoms of nausea or and very, very little fatigue. But that's also because she had a 2.5-year-old at the time. And so, you know, there's a lot of demands of chasing after a toddler all day anyway. But she was able to experience that and was very, very happy and grateful that she didn't have to that she was able to actually enjoy her pregnancy as opposed to just suffering from all of these normal symptoms. And then we had another practice member who was coming in. She started coming in towards the end of her second trimester, the beginning of third trimester. So, kind of in that space of her pregnancy. And she was actually coming in because she was getting some low back pain from the structural changes potentially that were happening in her body. So, we were definitely looking at doing some chiropractic adjustments for her, but we also what starts to happen in second trimester or third trimester is a lot of the mom's organs start to shift up, right, to make space for the baby. And so with that compression, it can make it really challenging for mom's organs to function as well as we would sometimes hope for. So that can impact digestion because some of the nerves that are coming from the upper mid back are going to organs that are involved in upper digestion. And so we were kind of inadvertently helping to support different functions in her body. And she mentioned after one of the initial visits, she said, "Oh, do you think the adjustments are doing anything to help with my heartburn?" And I said, "Oh, I didn't know that you were experiencing any heartburn." And she said, "Yeah, it's not been terrible, but it's definitely been something that I was just taking some, some Tums for to help manage the symptoms." And I started noticing that after last few days or the last week or so, I haven't needed to do that. And so she was curious to see what was happening with that. So we talked about how creating space by doing the chiropractic adjustments, how that can help alleviate some of the physical stresses or the physical restraints on the body and creating space for the diaphragm, the lungs, the esophagus, all of the things to open up a little bit better. But again, working on not just the structure, but the functional component of it to allow that to take place. So a lot of times when in second or third trimester, it's really common that people would be experiencing symptoms of heartburn. And again, this is not to fix symptoms or cure symptoms or anything like that, but allowing the body to work more optimally can often yield extra side benefits, which she was pleasantly surprised with. And then when it comes to postpartum care, one of my practice members, this was again her second pregnancy, and many times what happens in the prenatal journey is that a lot of times people will experience more of the low back discomfort or the lower mid back discomfort. So it tends to stay more in that area as opposed to like the neck and upper traps. And then after the baby arrives, because we go into whether or not you're breastfeeding the baby, but you're holding the baby, looking down at the baby a lot. So it's what is their original tech neck. It was nursing mother's neck, right? So holding the baby and looking down like this or nursing the baby. And for all of you who have babies, most likely you've contorted your body to make sure that the baby's comfortable. And if the baby's falling asleep, that you kind of keep the baby comfortable and happy so that you don't wake the baby and all those things, right? And so then we end up being in really awkward positions sometimes to to accommodate for the baby's needs. And so a lot of times in postpartum, people will start to experience more of neck pain or upper back pain. And so I had this practice member who we were doing some of her postpartum visits, and she was definitely experiencing it was almost like a little bit of a burning sensation going down her into her upper back and towards her shoulders. And when you're trying to enjoy this new baby in your life and all of the new roles, and she was a second time mom, but you know, just this new addition to your family, and you're trying to enjoy that and be present for all of that, and then you have all this pain and discomfort that really can be very distracting and very, in a way, not necessarily debilitating, but it can be really challenging to try to do the things that you want to do or need to do and still function and still feel rested because your body is now sending a lot of energy to try to manage this pain. And so we looked at doing some adjustments for her, but we actually needed to add in a fair amount of nutritional support because I hadn't seen her for most of her pregnancy. She came in towards the end, and then so when it came time for postpartum, we really needed to nourish her body, well, not just by getting in the appropriate foods, because again, she had a 4-year-old at the time and then her new baby, and so the bandwidth was significantly reduced for kind of managing all the different needs of the family. But when it wasn't necessarily that she wasn't making good choices with her food, but her digestion had significantly slowed down, and so we really needed to focus on improving digestion. And what we were also doing in her postpartum visits was to also look at how her low back and pelvis and everything was functioning. And so again, I don't know if it was the adjustments or some of the nutritional changes, but looking at the relationship between structure and function to really allow her digestion to improve so that she could absorb the nutrients so we could get some support for her whole body, and her tingling or burning sensation started reducing significantly very quickly. So luckily she got to spend time with her family, enjoy her time with her new baby and her new family. So we really love working with families in that whole phase of pregnancy from preconception to postpartum. If you are in this somewhere in this realm and would really like some more support so that you don't just have to suffer through it or wait for a date to come that will hopefully be the answer to your prayers. But if you really want some hands-on support with somebody who has been working in this arena for quite a long time, we would really love to chat with you. There's also a link to our program below to really help you navigate this 5 trimester journey. It's waitlisted right now, but please take a look and we will get you the information as soon as we release it. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.